His Fears, an adapted excerpt from Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. My family name being Pirrip and my first name Philip, as a child, I could make of both names nothing more than Pip. So I called myself Pip and came to be known as Pip. One cold winter afternoon in the churchyard, I realized for the first time that my father, mother and brothers were dead and buried, and that I was quite alone in the growing dark. This frightened me, and I began to cry, when suddenly,
"Hold your noise!"
cried a terrible voice.
"Keep still for your own good, boy."
"Don't cut my throat, sir," I cried in terror.
"Tell us your name."
Said the man.
"Quick!"
"Pip, sir, Pip."
"Show us where you live."
Said the man. I pointed to our village. The man turned me upside down and emptied my pockets. There was only a piece of bread in them, but he roughly set me on a tall tombstone while he ate the bread as if he were starved.
"Who do you live with, if I kindly let you live?"
"My sister, sir, Mrs. Joe Gargery, wife of Joe Gargery, the blacksmith."
He looked at the iron ring on his leg.
"The question is whether you are to be allowed to go on living. You know what a file is? Get a file and food. Never dare say a word or make a sign of having seen me, and you shall be allowed to live. So what do you say?"
I said I would get the file and food and bring them to the battery early. I saw him turn and ran towards home. My sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, was more than 20 years older than me and had brought me up. Joe was a dear, sweet-tempered fellow. My sister was a strict woman. I had no choice but to steal food. I decided to rob the pantry at dawn. The pantry had far more in it than usual because of Christmas. But I had no time to pick and choose. I stole some bread and cheese, a pie and a bone. Then I took a file from the forge. It was a cold, wet morning. I knew my way to the battery. I hurried across a ditch and soon reached the place, and there was the man, hugging himself and limping to and fro. He looked awfully cold and hungry as I opened the bundle and emptied my pockets. He ate hurriedly, and he said suddenly,
"You're not deceiving me. You've brought no one with you."
"No, sir, no."
"Well,"
said he,
"I believe you. Thank you, my boy. Give me the file, boy."
Soon he was filing at his iron like a madman. I was very much afraid of him again and of staying away from home any longer, so I told him I must go. When he did not answer, I slipped quietly away. I thought I should find a policeman waiting for me when I went home, but the robbery had not been discovered as the dinner had been made ready the day before. Dinner time came and I was still uneasy. Later at the door, I ran into a party of soldiers, one of whom held out a pair of handcuffs. But the sergeant walked in with the handcuffs in one hand and his other hand on my shoulder, explaining that he was on a chase in the name of the king. The lock on the handcuffs was not working, and he wanted the blacksmith to mend it. When Joe had finished his job, he had the courage to ask if he and I might go with the soldiers to see what became of the hunt. That is how we came to be a part of the manhunt. The convict was spotted and subsequently caught. I looked at him eagerly and tried, by shaking my head, to tell him I had not given him away. He looked very closely at me in a way I could not understand. My convict never looked at me again, but suddenly he turned to the sergeant and remarked,
"I wish to say something about this escape. It may stop some people from being suspected because of me. I took some food from the village over there, from the blacksmith's house."
And so he set me free from the fear of being caught for helping him, by claiming he had stolen the food himself. Now that the fear of being found out was lifted, I was not sorry I had stolen the food. When we got home, I was put to bed, tired out. But the next day, and for many days after, I was troubled by the secret I had not shared with Joe.